Incompetence leads to evil, and this time, like it has before, it has killed children.
We begin with this. Community members have closed a Spaza shop in Naledi. This is after 5 children died in Soweto over the weekend from suspected food poisoning. It's claimed that they bought the snacks from stores in the township.
South African children have died again from eating something from a foreign-owned Spaza shop. This never used to happen. The South African public had a South African Bureau of Standards and many other such organizations and institutions that check the products that are made in this country. And they were sold out of South African-owned Spazas by South Africans, Black, Indian, Poras and others, and no child ever died or bought a sweet that would cause them to fall into a coma and start foaming at the mouth. But now that goods are allowed to be made illegally by foreigners, now our children are dying and have been dying for a very long time. In Soweto, more kids have died after buying something from a Spaza shop and eating it. And this is not the first time. A year ago, something similar like this happened, and it has happened to the Eastern Cape and to every corner of this country because these are illegally manufactured goods in factories that are running illegally where nobody ever comes to monitor and evaluate what they are doing and inspect the circumstances of this factory. And those factories are owned by the foreigners, Ethiopians and Pakistanis, which then sell on their own goods that have the same packaging that they print themselves as the original goods from reputable companies, and then they're sold off to kids through those Spaza shops, and now more children are dead. And at the end, these Spaza shop owners are not even held liable because many of them just say they bought the goods, they can't be held liable for that. They don't know what's in it, and it was packaged the same as every other good that looks exactly like this, and that's how they get away with it. So now we have foreigners coming into our country, stealing gold out the ground, the zamazamas. We have foreigners in our country working in our government departments. We have foreigners in our country getting tenders from the government. Foreigners in our country taking over land, living on land, sometimes pushing out whole entire groups of people and taking over the whole town or part of the city like they've done in Hillbrow and Yeovil and other places. And now they even kill your children.
Jabulo, come here. Come tell me what happened. He said to me, my friends ate snacks. And I asked him, where did he buy the snacks? He said, around the passage. And I even repeatedly asked him, did you eat those snacks? He said no. And then I think after 10 minutes from that time, Jabulo started to change. His face was starting to be purple. And then I took him off outside. Actually, I used water, just to wake him up. And he was not responding positively. So I started getting worried. So I asked one of the neighbors to call my 2 daughters to come and help me. So I had to change and immediately left to find transport to get help. So I used the Uber.
And the incompetence of the South African government is what has led to this evil. Because if you do not monitor the factories, if you do not monitor the borders, and if you do not enforce the laws at the harshest standard, especially when children are dying, then what are you there for? Are we still going to see people crying on television and nothing is done? And then the minute that community, Naledi being one, or any other where this sort of thing has happened, immediately when that community says, you know what, we're taking this Spaza shop, we're going to burn it to the ground, and we're kicking these people out, now all of a sudden, the police want to show up, the president wants to jump on television, and these people are xenophobes and calling them all sorts of names and calling them our African brothers. Nonsense.
From cockroaches and rodents to maize meal that doesn't have an expiry date. This was just some of the horror found inside Spaza shops in Diepkloof. Operation Tutula descended into the area, saying residents want law enforcement to shut the shops down. Now this follows the death of children in Naledi and the West Rand who consumed products bought from a Spaza shop. ENCA's senior reporter, Slindelo Masikane, has more.
Operation Dudula is in Diepkloof. The organization says it's been receiving numerous calls from communities to assist them and shut down Spaza shops.
I feel so pissed off because one of my 11-year-old, I was called from school. He was vomiting, he was having running tummy, he was so drained out.
Dudula members found products that didn't have expiry dates and food that's been kept in an unhygienic environment.
This is rubbish. This is the sort of incompetence that leads to evil, and it serves to demoralize the South African public and the South African citizen. The ladies that are crying on television about their kids and their grandchildren who have died are not the right people to do anything about this, because they never will. They will cry, they will say things, and if someone listens, maybe something will happen. But I can tell you exactly who can do something about this. The men and the young men in that community. If you let another man come into your community, sell your children rubbish, and then kill that child, you need to do something about that. And that's just the facts. Because the police aren't coming to save you, and when another child is dead, how do you reverse that? How do you take that back? The best thing to do is not to allow another child to die. The South African public needs to understand that their government is incompetent, and incompetent leads to evil. The evil of the incompetence in the hospitals leads to people being treated like dogs and left to die in hospital corridors. The incompetence of the police and the judicial system lets rapists and other criminals get away with crimes, and lets people commit crimes because they know they can get away with it. The incompetence of our politicians lets people sneak through the border, sell illegal goods after manufacturing it, of course, at an illegal company, probably staffed by people who are also illegally here, and then carry on with their lives knowing that they can get away with it. Incompetence of our government to regulate these shops and to regulate the goods being made allows for innocent children who are buying a sweet at a bloody Spaza shop to die. Remember not to forget that you can get access to a short course on our Buy Me a Coffee page. Just follow the links in the description, and if you become a member, you'll get the course and a digital comic book emailed to you every single month. If you can't buy us a coffee or get the membership, just join our mailing list. The link is in the description, and you can get one digital comic book emailed to you. What kind of country is that? I don't want to live in a country where a kid buying a packet of crisps, buying a sweet, buying a little juice, dies after drinking that thing. And then they end up dying and foaming at the mouth in the hands of their grandfather, their father, their mother, their grandmother, or a sibling, in full view of the entire community. That's madness.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
I don't want to live in a community like that, and the people crying on television and the dumb politicians that are going to run around after this trying to pay for these children's funerals are coming in too late. If an 8-year-old is not safe in this country, no one is safe, because an 8-year-old cannot defend themselves against this world. And if the South African government isn't doing it, the men in the community need to do something, because if some foreigner can walk into your community, start a business, and then walk away with the life of your child, what are you even doing?
Papu o fitlhile mo ntlong ka bo maybe ne le bo ma 10 to 4. Atla a matha a fihla raha monyako. A raha monyako mangwana a mo chika re moena why a kena mo ntlong a raha monyako. Yena re moena a re a ke right ke a shake ke dizzy. So a batla ka mo kamoreng nna ne ke le ka mo kamoreng ke patame a fihla a mplela re mama ne o mpitsa mama ke nkgono a fihla re mama ne ha ke right ke dizzy ke a shake and ha ke mo tshwara ke thola re wa shake and pelo e beat fast nna ne ke nana re maybe na matha una mathiswa ke batho ko strateng because bana ba rona ba stood. So ha ke re ke a msheba wa sweater ebe ke monka ke mo hlobola dieta ke mo palamisa mo bethe ke mo phomola moswetho o wa hae ke re mana ke re a re robale hanyane e tla re hao o ba right re tla etsa o tla tsoa o le right yena mpotsa re mama ne ke eng o etsahalang ha ke right ke a shwa nna ke re mena ke re no popo a o shwe ke eng o batla o shwa popo re a ke batla o shwa ke re mena ke re a o shwe a re paqame hanyane and then e tla re ha o tsoa o be right so ha ntse ke re ke paqama le ena ke bona sa a hlatsa ha hlatsa be ke bona ke re le mahlo a ka re a change be ke matha ke bitsa maloma ha e ka mo dirong and then mama malume a batla tshwere lebese a fihla re monesa lebese itse fela qeta ona lebese leo ebe a qala ile hore wa hlatsa ka dinko le ka ntho and then ho be se ho tswa foam mo dinkong mo molomong.
I do not want to live in a country where children die like this. This is the evil that is brought on by incompetence, years of it. And when those children were dying in the arms of their parents or their grandparents, there was no ambulance in sight. And those that did call an ambulance, the ambulance was going to be 45 minutes in getting there. And that would have not saved the child. So they would have had to wait 45 minutes even for the ambulance to arrive, which means that is incompetence at another level. Another form of incompetence. Because these ambulances, if they're not broken down or there is no ambulance, in the odd chance you find one, now you have to wait 45 minutes because they're busy servicing other people or they're too far away or they can't get into your community because the roads aren't built up, or if they can get to you, they're too busy servicing all these other people and the hospital is too far because the clinic is closed and the other hospital they can get to doesn't have electricity. Incompetence at every level that allows evil. And this time it's the death of children again. If children aren't dying in pit latrines in rural schools, the sort of schools that politicians call the schools of our people, those same schools where children are dying in the worst way that you wouldn't even wish on your enemy, falling into a pit latrine alone in the dark, drowning, that's the country we live in, and I don't want to live in a country like that. We now have a course on Teachable. It's for boys between the ages of 10 and 18, about 12 men from the Bible, where we teach about manhood, masculinity, and becoming a man. Check it out. Those sort of things do not get fixed by people crying on the news or people talking on the news. These sort of things are fixed by actual people in those actual communities right at the coalface because that's your life and no one is coming to save you or to help you. If a child can die in a pit latrine, we are living in a wicked and evil country run by wicked and evil people. And if they cannot stop the many deaths that have happened before this, if they cannot stop those deaths, and they didn't stop this one that happened in Soweto now, with these kids dying after buying some snacks from a Spaza shop, what can they stop? Who can they protect? And what are they doing? And what can they do? They're not serious about you or your life or your family's life, and they're not serious about your child's life.
3 more children were no more. So I knew that the chances of my son surviving was slim. I'm so broken, not only for me, but for those mothers, all of us who have lost our children. And one is fighting for his life, and they were all friends. I just want justice and explanation as to what really happened to our children. It doesn't make sense. 1 minute you are with your child, and then the next minute they tell you that your son is no more. As a mother, I am broken. I am so broken.
They don't care.
We do not care.
And if these foreigners even spend a day in prison, I would be surprised because, in fact, they're off the hook because they didn't manufacture those goods as far as we know, and who can prove that? They are just a merchant who bought a good and it was wrapped exactly the same as any other good and sold it on. And if someone dies, how are they liable for that? Because they sell all sorts of things out of that store. If you started holding them accountable for every little thing that went wrong with whatever they sold, they'd never be able to sell anything. That's why you need a third party. And that third party is supposed to be the government, because the government adjudicates between citizens. And the agreed upon social contract is that the merchant sells something that within his knowledge is safe for consumption. The kid buys knowing that this person would never sell me something that will kill me. And the parents allow the kid to buy that. That is a social unspoken contract that is adjudicated by the laws of this country and the regulations that are enforced through inspectors and all sorts of other laws that actually check on goods right from the factory.
One shop owner says his products are legit.
For me, it's nothing problem because I know why I'm stocking. I have everything sleep. If something wrong, I'm sure they all sleep, and then I'm sure the shop where I'm buying my things. Even today, I'm come from stock. I'm sure they sleep where I'm bringing it. That in my stuff.
But if you're allowing foreigners to come in, build illegal factories staffed by illegal people, manufacturing these things out of who knows what, children die, losing their little lives in their homes, gargling at the mouth, staring up at the people that love them, unable to speak or say anything about what happened, and the ambulance was 45 minutes away. So people had to call Ubers or neighbors. Here's an obvious idea for a government that is clearly incompetent. Why don't you enlist the Uber system as part of an ambulance system? You can even have private people who modify their cars to be like ambulances or modify certain vehicles to be like ambulances. Small vehicles of people that live in the area can do Uber, and when there's an emergency, they can be called in and quickly put down the seats or something like that, and Ubers can take people to hospitals. Now, is that a good idea? It sounds like it, like on the surface, right? And it's a better idea than what we have now. But here's the thing. That's still a private citizen taking someone to hospital. People need ambulances, a trained professional who's going to drive this thing fast and down the street to the hospital, and trained professionals obviously in the back working on them. The Uber solution is just a solution that could work because of the incompetence. What is necessary is a proper ambulance system with properly trained people, with proper ambulances, ferrying people to and from wherever they are to hospital so that they can get well. And if you integrate those sort of ambulances into the Uber system as well and let Uber carry some of that weight for you, or build you an Uber system just for ambulances that the government can buy from Uber, why not? But that would be too much because they're too busy being incompetent and letting children die. In conclusion, of all the incompetences and of all the evil that has been allowed to reign in this country, there is only one bulwark, one wall that can stop it. It's not fat-faced politicians on television. It's not crying mothers in the street. They're going to cry about something else tomorrow. It's the men of this country to actually come up with ideas and actually do something with or without the government.
Madness. This is Sparta!
Incompetence lets the evil in. And if you can't see that, you don't want to see it. Because if a father cannot protect his own house, anyone can walk in and do whatever he wants in there. And if that's true for one house, what more of a country? So it's imperative that the men of South Africa start to catch on fire for some of these things and actually sort these things out. Apart from just moving the government and voting for different people and actively acting on the government and pushing them to do something, it's best if you do it yourself instead of waiting on these fat-faced fools. You need to catch fire and start doing something. Crying women's not going to do it, and newscasters aren't going to do it. They just work there. A saying, catch on fire and people will come for miles to see you burn. John Wesley. I recommend the men of South Africa start to take full responsibility for their community because no one is coming to save you. The case is closed, my friend. The South African government is incompetent. Incompetence lets in the evil, and evil reigns when good men do nothing, even to the death of children. God forbid. Remember not to forget that you can get access to a short course on our Buy Me a Coffee page. Just follow the links in the description, and if you become a member, you'll get the course and a digital comic book emailed to you every single month. If you can't buy us a coffee or get the membership, just join our mailing list. The link is in the description, and you can get one digital comic book emailed to you.